Welcome to Job to Business Empowering Your Dreams, the podcast that takes you on a journey from being a job holder to becoming a successful entrepreneur. Are you tired of working for someone else's dreams and goals? Do you want to become your own boss and turn your passions into a profitable business? If yes, then you are in the right place. In this podcast, we'll bring you interviews with successful entrepreneurs, industry experts and leaders sharing their experiences, strategies, and insights for transforming your career and unleashing your entrepreneurial potential. Join us on this exciting journey and let's empower your dreams together. Welcome to Job to Business Empowering Your Dreams. Today we have a very special guest, Micaela Passeri, who made the transformation from a job to her own business. She is now an emotional intelligence business strategist, and she will be sharing with us her story of how she made this transition, as well as teaching us about emotion on this journey. Let's give a big round of applause for Micaela. Thanks for joining us today. We are so excited to learn more about your story and your tips on how we can become our own bosses. And so, Micaela, thank you very much. We are so excited to have you here with us today.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you. And to start, can you tell us a bit about your background and what inspired you to make this transition from being an employee to starting your own business?
Well, I know we only have 30 minutes, so it's a long story. But to make it kind of short and sweet, I always knew that I wasn't going to be the type of person that could work for someone. I knew that I had to start somewhere. So, family, friends, whatever, everybody advised to go get a job. I get a job right out of college. I mean, actually during college too. But I knew that wasn't going to be my path. There was something inside of me that was calling me to do my own thing. So really the inspiration was, I call it really divine, in the sense that it was just an inner knowing for me that I was meant to be an entrepreneur, not to work a 9-to-5 job. So even though I did work many 9-to-5 jobs, eventually I ventured out on my own. So I really started, even when I was having my 9-to-5 jobs, my regular jobs, my mind was always like, okay, how can I get out of this? What can I do? How can I be this entrepreneur? I was always thinking. And then eventually just had a thought, and I am Italian American, so I was born in Italy, but I came to the US when I was 20. I did my college years here. So as I went through college and worked and studied out of college, I was like, okay, so what can I do? What am I going to do as an entrepreneur? So I figured that what I could do, what I had as a resource and a gift, was the fact that I had my biculturality. So I was Italian and American, and I had seen my parents, specifically my mom, always bring handbags back to friends when we came to visit. So I thought, okay, I love fashion. I love handbags. That's easy. I know there's a market, because my mom was bringing them back as gifts to her friends. And so that's how I started. I actually started with a handbag business. I was designing and manufacturing leather handbags in Florence. And then I was exporting them and importing them to the US. And initially I was just doing wholesale. And then I went into retail. And then eventually I stopped working my 9-to-5 job.
Very nice about this one, because having this decision to start the business usually comes with a package of emotions. How did you handle these emotions in this part of journey that came with this transformation from an employee to an entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a roller coaster of emotions, and people really need to understand that you cannot make choices from your emotions. You have to really allow the emotions to come through. feel them, experience them, and then once they're gone, once you've processed yourself out of the emotions or through the emotions, that's when you make decisions. Because most people, they make decision in that reaction, right, from the emotional state or the emotional roller coaster that they're on, and that's the worst thing that they could do for themselves. So basically, I mean, at the time, now I'm an expert in emotional intelligence, so I know a lot more than I did when I was in my 20s. But in my 20s, I just kind of, I guess you could say that I just followed my intuition, and and followed the desire and the call. My desire was so strong, and my feelings were so, I felt trapped. I felt really claustrophobic in a job. I felt trapped. So I knew that that wasn't the thing, because your body gives you alarms, and it gives you alarms to the way that you feel and the emotions that you experience. So even though I wasn't consciously aware of it at the time, I followed the way that I was feeling, and I knew that I was feeling bad. I was feeling claustrophobic. I was feeling limited in a job, and I knew that entrepreneurship would give me freedom, and I could be free to create the life of my own choosing and what I wanted to do. So really, I just navigated the emotions. I talked to myself a lot and processed myself through it. And I also strategized a lot. So, nowadays I use strategy to help my clients to really monetize in their business. But at the time, and again, it was all unbeknownst to myself, because I hadn't studied and nor had the experiences that I have today. But I used strategy to figure out a way on how I could really work my full-time job so that it was a means to an end, so I could pay my bills, save some money, and still work on my entrepreneurship journey. And so what I actually did, I thought, okay, wait a minute. I worked for a bank at the time. I was a mortgage collector. So if you were late on your mortgage, you'd get a call from me. And, in the collection industry, they're open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. because in the US, they've got their offices were in California. So they had to call 3 hours ahead of time, right? As early as 9 a.m. So that was 6 a.m. over for us. And then as late as 9 p.m. because of the 3 hours ahead of Hawaii. So I knew that there was this huge span of possibility of working. And initially I had a job like, I don't know, it was an 8 to 5 job. I think it was either 8 to 5 or 9 to 6. I can't remember. So I went to my boss and I said, look, can I work 4 hours in the morning? Right. So I'd get in at 6, 7 a.m., do my 4 hour shift. Then I'd go home and I'd say, can I work 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the evening? And I forget what it is that I told him. I obviously didn't tell him that I was working on my business. I said something else. And he gave it to me. He said, sure, fine. Collecting is collecting. It doesn't matter when I do it. So that's what I did. So I would get up really early, go to work for 4 hours, come home, work on my business during the day. And then I'd go back to work in the evening and work until 9 p.m. So I was willing to do the tough things, right? I was willing to not sleep. I was willing to work long hours. I was willing to do whatever it takes. So it's really important for people to understand that you have to have a burning desire. If you don't have a burning desire that leads you, it's going to be hard. It's going to feel like a lot of efforting. So desire is the first thing. The second thing is you have to be committed, and you have to be committed to the point where you're willing to pay the prices. I was willing to pay the price of no sleep and feeling tired, working long hours, and not having a social life, right? Because I was working all day. So those were the prices that I was willing to pay at a young age to get where I wanted to be. And eventually it got me to where I wanted to be, because eventually I left that job and I opened up a shop, and I had my own store, and then I had my own wholesale business attached to the store. And I did that for 10 years. I had a multiple 6-figure business on my own for 10 years. So it's possible, but you got to ride the emotional roller coaster, and you've got to be willing to pay the prices.
Because this is the next question for me. Usually people start this journey. They have the desire, but when they face the first challenge, they go back.
Yep.
Okay, you had challenges. You had a lot. I think a lot, so many challenges. But my question is, how you kept your positive mindset?
Yeah, I mean, look, life is going to give you ups and downs. So if you're going to go into entrepreneurship and you're going to think it's going to be all roses and candy canes, no. So you're going to have challenges at every step of your journey. So, and I've had many businesses since that first business, by the way, some 6 figures, some 7 figures. So there's obstacles at any journey. So you've got to keep that desire burning. You've got to keep your goal in mind, and you have to stay committed. I mean, the keeping positive is a way to do it because it allows you to manage your emotions, to really understand that just as long as you're taking action, and this is one of the things that I used to tell myself all the time to stay in that positive mindset, is I knew that just as long as I took action in the path of in the direction of my goal, I was going to get there. I didn't know when, I didn't know how long it was going to take. I just knew that it was going to get there. I was going to get there because I was committed and I had a goal in mind and I was taking action. So you just got to talk to yourself. You got to use lots of different tools. I used meditation. I did a lot of personal development. Personal development is key number one, especially if you find it hard to manage your emotions and your mindset. You've got to do interior, introspection, because you've got to understand how you operate and why you make the decisions that you make and why you take the actions that you take, so that when you're about to sabotage yourself, you can stop. Or when you're about to make a decision that's a reaction to an emotion, you stop. Or when you're maybe supposed to say something to someone, maybe it's a client, but they're giving you a bunch of feedback or conditions or obstacles, you actually continue to talk. You don't stop, right? So there's a lot of strategies that go that have to happen on the inside of the human being in order to navigate and to not self-sabotage and to not start and stop. Because what you described is that start and stop. I create momentum, then I get to an obstacle. It's too hard, it's too difficult. I don't want to deal with it. And then I take several steps back. And then I got to start all over. And then again, I'm going to face an obstacle. And then I take several steps back. That's the starting and stop, which is one of the malaise, one of the diseases of entrepreneurs. And they don't understand why they do it. But it all comes from the fact that they're not able to manage themselves, their internal conversations, their emotions, and their mindset. So it's very key to seek support, to personally develop, read books, do trainings, hire coaches. It's very important that you do that in order to get to the other side. But if you don't have the ability to do that, simple things that you can do are meditate or use affirmations. I wrote a book. If you Google my name on Amazon, you'll find my book on how to write positive affirmations. Read an empowerment or personal development book a month. Those are things that don't cost that much that you can do to support yourself in that journey. But I highly, highly, highly recommend. I did not get to where I am today without investing in my future. And that means I hired many coaches. I did many trainings. I went on many transformational journeys, read a lot of books, but the most that I got from my experiences was the coaches and the transformational journey and the personal development trainings that I did.
Great advices. Thank you very much for this one. And came to my mind a question about this part. You mentioned coaches, mentors. How important is to have a coach or a mentor? Because usually we start a business, we do not think about this one, but let's talk a little bit about this one, the importance of to have a coach, the importance to have a mentor next to you.
Yeah, people think that they start a business, maybe they don't even have a business degree and they already know everything. And that's unfortunate because that's how they sabotage themselves, right? But it's very important. I mean, if you think about it, an Olympic athlete, do they become an Olympic athlete on their own? No, they hire a coach. A figure skater, do they just go out on the ice and learn all of the flips on their own? No, they hire a coach. Top level executives, they have executive coaches. People who understand that success is earned and that success, you got to invest in your success, hire coaches. It is absolutely important. I have a coach right now. In fact, I have 2 coaches right now, and I've had probably, I don't know, 10 to 15 coaches in my experience as an entrepreneur. And I will always have a coach, because it doesn't matter at what level of success you are, you always need another set of eyes, another set of brain, right? Someone else that has achieved farther than you, that has more knowledge, more experience, more wisdom to give to you to support you in your journey, because you want to get to where they are. So you absolutely need a coach.
I call the coaches, I call them like time machine, because save you so much time. Even
Oh my God, Milentina.
Yeah, it's like you
That's,
save so much time.
That's an amazing way to say it, because you do. I mean, look, before hiring my first coach, which I had already pivoted out of my handbag business at the time and into my inspirational clothing business. So mind you, I don't do any of those businesses now. I'm a business strategist, emotional intelligence business strategist, right? So those were businesses that I did way back when. But up until I hired my first coach, I did it the hard way. I did, because I didn't know that coaches even existed. No, I wasn't in that world. Nobody really guided me there. I just had to find it on my own. Luckily, that was on my path. But before hiring a coach, I went through the school of hard knocks of entrepreneurship, because I had to fail a lot and test and tweak a lot before I got to any really level of success. And it was hard, and it took a long time. It took, in fact, over 10 years. So if I can save somebody 10 years,
yeah,
because I could have been 10 years ahead of the game
yeah,
had I known about this sooner, but I didn't. So I could only operate with what I knew. So I didn't know, and that was part of my journey. So that's fine, because I still learned a lot, but it just took longer. So a coach absolutely is a time machine. They
exactly.
tap you into the future.
You can learn it hard way, or you can learn it smart way.
Exactly.
So you decide how to do this part. Some great advices, and this is very good to bring in discussion this part of the coaches, because we do not know how much time is saving, how much value brings to us in our life, and how less stress we have when we have a coach which inspires you and tells you the way. Thank you very much for this one, and I would like to tell us a little bit about what inspired you to become an emotional coach.
Well, that's another long story, but I'll try to sum it up. So as I pivoted I mentioned that I pivoted from my handbag business to an inspirational clothing business, because when I had to close my handbag company, I was like, okay, so what do I know how to do? What are my talents and gifts? Let me use those to go to the next thing. And so I knew how to produce, I knew how to sell, and I knew the fashion industry. So I went into the clothing line, or the clothing fashion side, the clothing line side of the fashion industry, because I had an inspiration one day that I thought that my 4-year-old daughter at the time should not see disempowering messages on t-shirts. And there were a lot of them out there at the time. There was a lot of just nasty, kind of not very nice sayings on shirts. And so I had that inspiration one day when I was walking with my daughter, and I heard that kind of like tap on the shoulder, like, okay, well, you do it, right? So I started this inspirational clothing line where I put positive messages specifically around self-love for women on t-shirts and garments. And what would happen is my clients would buy my shirts and then they'd call me a couple of weeks later and they'd say, I really love what you do. I love your line. I bought your I Love Who I Am t-shirt and it's been sitting on my counter for 2 weeks and I can't wear it. And I said, well, why can't you wear it? Well, because if I wear it, I'm a fraud because I don't really love myself. And so what would happen is these clients would start this introspective journey and I would find myself coaching them. Mm-hmm. And that's where my journey to coaching started. So I started dabbling in a lot of different modalities. I do use an energy healing modality called emotion code in the work that I do because it is absolutely imperative that we clear the emotional baggage of the human being, of the business owner, as we work on the business. They have to go hand in hand. Because if it doesn't, then you lose that that potential for success. You lose that momentum, right? So so basically that's how I did. It just took me into that. I just searched. I did a lot of studying. I got certified in a lot of different things, and then I used my 2 business degrees with all of my healing modality certifications, and I created the business strategy that I have now, that I do now.
So thanks God you decided to become an emotional intelligence business strategist because you helped me so much in the last years. So thanks for all
It's been a pleasure working with you. So
yeah, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure seeing you really up level because you have up leveled enormously. If people saw you last year and today, they're like, what's Milentina been doing, right? So absolutely, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, yeah.
Thank you very much. And as we wrap up, because we said that will be a short episode this time, what is one key piece of advice you would give to the people listening, people who are considering a similar journey from a job to a business?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that they have to really consider is, are they willing to do, when they switch, are they willing to do the things that most people are not willing to do? That is the definition and the thing that differentiates people from being amateur entrepreneurs and professional entrepreneurs. Because the amateurs are not willing to do the things that the professionals are willing to do. I was willing to pay the prices for my success. So the first thing that I would ask someone is, are you going to be willing to pay the price for your success? And that could mean years of, maybe eating, soups while you build your business. It could mean sleepless nights. It could mean asking people for money. It could be, living in in your office. I don't know what it's going to look like for you, but are you willing to pay those prices? If the answer is yes, then you have what it takes to become a professional entrepreneur. So then the next thing is you have to commit to that process. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to commit to constantly recommitting to the fact that you're willing to pay the prices to get to the goal that you want to get to. And I think that's the main advice, that I could give to people, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs and some of my clients have been people that they say they want it, but they're not willing to do the things. And then what happens is they just take themselves out of their business. So, and then it's just a waste of time and money for them. So that's the first thing that I would say is you have to have a hard talk with yourself. And if the answer is yes, then great. Then commit, use your desire, take the action, hire a great coach, and go for it. But if the answer is no, then you're going to have a hobby. So if you're okay with working and having a hobby, great. But if you want to leave your job, you got to be willing to pay the prices.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and inspiring our listeners with your story. Thank you. And it was a great pleasure having you on the show. Micaela, where we can find you and find out more about your part, or how we can be helped with this with your emotional intelligence business strategies?
So obviously I'm on all socials. So if you look on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, Micaela Passeri. So Micaela Passeri, because I don't have an H in my name. You'll find me there, but you can also go to my website, loveyourevolution.com, which interestingly can also be read loveyourevolution.com, which actually was my clothing line. My clothing line was Love You Revolution, and now my coaching business is Love Your Evolution.
Great. Thank you very
I'm
much.
playing the names.
Great. Thank you very much. And that concludes another episode of Job to Business, Empowering Your Dreams. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, your dreams are within reach. Join us next time for more empowering conversations. And until then, keep crushing your passions and embracing your transformational journey. Take care. See you next time. Thank you very much.